Emma Hayes was 10 years old and she liked to run. The observation deck of the colony was her favorite place to run because the long glass walls showed her the pink sky of an alien world. She had lived here her whole life. Her parents said she was the first human child born on this planet, which made her special in a way she did not fully understand. To her, 442B was not alien at all. It was home. The colony held 200 people. They lived in metal buildings that curved against the red dust outside. Gardens grew in sealed domes where lights replaced the distant sun. The scientists studied the rocks and the sky. Emma's mother, Dr. Hayes, was a botanist. She grew plants that could survive in this harsh world. Emma's father, Captain Frank Hayes, worked in the communications center, sending messages back to Earth that took years to arrive. On this day, Emma ran through the observation corridor when the alarm sounded. Not the small alarm that meant a dust storm was coming. This was the big alarm that meant something serious had happened. Emma stopped running. Adults moved quickly through the hallways. They spoke in urgent tones. She heard the words that no one wanted to hear. Unknown ship approaching, not human, not registry. Emma ran to find her mother. In the colony, when something was wrong, you went to the people you knew. The colony was small enough that Emma knew almost everyone. She ran through the corridors with the red emergency lights flashing above her head. Her heart beat fast. She had never heard that alarm before. She found her mother in the agricultural dome. Dr. Hayes was checking the soil sensors, but she stopped immediately when she saw her daughter. She held Emma close and turned on the emergency broadcast. Commander's voice came through every speaker in the colony. All personnel to secure positions. Unknown vessel detected entering our atmosphere. Rescue teams prepare for possible impact. This is not a drill. Repeat, this is not a drill. Emma felt her mother's hand squeeze hers. Her mother was not afraid, but she was serious. Emma understood that this moment was different from everything that had come before. The ship crashed about 3 kilometers from the colony. It hit the red soil with a force that people inside the colony felt through the ground. The impact was massive. Dust rose into the pink sky like a cloud of blood. Commander gathered the rescue team immediately. These were the colony's best people, people who could fix things and save lives. They put on their protective suits because the outside air was poisoned to human lungs. Emma watched from the habitat window as the vehicles drove toward the crash site. She watched until they disappeared behind the rocky hills. Her mother held her and they waited. What happened next changed everything. The rescue team found the alien ship broken open like an egg. Most of the ship was destroyed. But inside one sealed compartment, they found something alive. It was a young alien. The being was about 14 years old by its own species standards, though no one in the colony knew this yet. Its skin was pale blue. It had 4 arms, 2 of which were damaged. Its eyes were large and intelligent. The alien was alone. Commander made the first decision that would echo across the galaxy. He ordered the team to bring the alien back to the colony. Dr. Susan Martinez, the colony's chief medical officer, prepared for something she had never done before. She had studied human medicine, but alien biology was entirely different. She worked with the emergency team to stabilize the creature. They did not know if it would live. They did not know if their medical technology would even help. But they tried. That was the human way. When someone was hurt, you tried to help them. The alien's name was, they learned this through a small translation device they found in the wreckage, came from the Confederacy. This was news that made Commander's face look worried. They were known across the galaxy. They were advanced. They were powerful. They were not known for being kind to younger species. Emma asked if she could help. Her mother said no at first. Then Dr. Martinez asked if Emma would sit with during recovery. Dr. Martinez said that needed to see a friendly face. She said that was scared. Emma understood fear. She said yes. For 3 weeks, Emma sat in the medical room with. The alien could not move much. His wounds were deep. But his eyes moved when Emma entered the room. On the first day, flinched. On the second day, did not flinch. On the third day, seemed to look directly at Emma with something that might have been recognition. Emma brought things. She brought pictures she had drawn of the colony. She brought water. She sat and talked about her life on 442B. She told about her mother's plants. She told him about the observation deck. She sang songs she had learned before she was born, songs that Earth parents taught their children. Listened. "Why do you help me?" asked one day. His translation device made his words sound stiff and strange, but Emma understood. "Because you are hurt," Emma said. "That is why. On ships they would let me die. Efficiency. No resources wasted on one soldier." "You are not a soldier, you are a child," Emma said. "Where I come from, we protect children." His face did something strange. His eyes became wet. Emma did not know if cried, but she thought that they did. The colony worked together to keep alive. The engineers found power to run the medical machines. The botanists grew special plants that Dr. Martinez used to make medicine. Everyone helped. This was how humans worked. They believed that one life mattered. They believed that saving someone was worth the cost. After 3 weeks could move, after 5 weeks could stand. The recovery was stood before the High Council. The chamber was enormous. The walls rose so high that they disappeared into darkness. The council members were representatives of different alien species. Some had skin like metal, some had skin like water, some had skin that changed colors when they spoke. Had his 4 arms, he stood as straight as he could. He was nervous, but he had to tell the truth. "They saved my life," said, his voice carried across the chamber. "They are a young species, they have only one world, but they saved me." The council listened. Some seemed interested, others looked bored or dismissive. The leader of the council was a named Chancellor Vex. He had ruled the Confederacy for 40 years. He was old, he was wise, but he was also cautious. He did not trust things he did not understand. "Tell us more about these humans," Chancellor Vex said. Described everything. He described how Emma had sat with him. He described how the colony had worked together. He described how they had used their limited resources to keep him alive. He described how they asked for nothing in return. He described how they had risked their colony by helping him. "They could have reported us to no one," said. "They could have kept my visit secret. Instead, they sent a message to you. They did this knowing that your response might be harsh." The council discussed. Some members said humans were dangerous. Others said humans were foolish. Still others said humans were unpredictable. Humans were not. Humans were not like other species. Humans acted on something called emotion. This made them unreliable. But Chancellor Vex made a decision. "Send an evaluation team," he said. "We will see what these humans truly are. We will see if they are a threat or if they are useful." The evaluation team was sent to 442B. They arrived quietly. They did not announce themselves. They watched the colony from orbit. They recorded everything. They sent reports back to the council. But did not know something. In a distant part of space, far from territory, another force was watching too. The Dominion. They had long-range sensors that could see across the stars. They had heard the messages about humans. They had heard about a young species showing unusual courage. They had heard about a species willing to help strangers. The Dominion did not like this. They were conquerors. They consumed weaker species. They destroyed competition. A species like humans, capable of inspiring others, capable of showing moral strength, was dangerous to the way of life. They made a decision. They would destroy humanity before humanity became strong. The decision was final and swift. 40 light-years away, on 442B, the colony was going about its normal work. Emma was in school, learning about Earth history. Her mother was in the botanical dome. Her father was receiving a message from Earth that had taken 8 years to arrive. It was a birthday message for Emma from her grandmother on Earth. Then the sensors picked up something. A fleet, not one ship, not 2 ships, a fleet of 20 ships was approaching from deep space. They were moving fast, very fast, too fast. Commander ran to the communications center. Captain Frank Hayes was already there. "What are we looking at?" asked. "I do not know," Frank said. "But they are not any registry in our database, and they are not slowing down." The fleet grew larger on the screens. The ships were different from ships. They were built like weapons. They were built like predators. Then the communication came. Not a message of greeting, not a diplomatic request. It was a warning. "Human colony, you have been identified as a civilization that poses a threat to Dominion expansion. You will be destroyed. You have 1 hour to surrender any valuable technology. After that, all humans will be eliminated. The Dominion brings order to the galaxy through strength." Commander's face became hard. "All personnel to emergency stations. This is not a drill. We are under attack." The evacuation sirens wailed. People ran through the corridors. Some ran to shelters. Others ran to the defensive positions. Emma found her mother. Dr. Hayes held her daughter. She did not tell her that everything would be fine. She told her the truth. "We have to be brave," her mother said. "That is all we can do." Dr. Martinez began moving injured and sick people into the deepest part of the colony. Engineer Cross was in the power center, trying to connect the colony's weapons to the main reactor. He had never done this before. No one had. The colony was built for scientists, not for soldiers, but was going to try. The first attack came without warning. The ships fired from space. Energy beams hit the colony like lightning. Domes cracked, buildings shook, people screamed. The colony's defenses fired back. But they were weak, so weak. The ships in orbit were massive. The colony was tiny. It was like an ant trying to fight a dragon. Commander stood in the command center. He watched the numbers. The shields were down to 20% power. The had said 1 hour. They had used 5 minutes of it. He knew the math. The colony could not win, but that did not mean they would not try. On the other side of the galaxy felt something. He did not know what it was, but he knew the emergency shelters were buried 50 meters below the surface of 442B. Dr. Susan Martinez moved through the tunnels with a group of children, elderly people, and sick colonists. Emma was with her mother. They were not in the deepest shelter. They were in the second level. They could still hear the explosions above them. They could feel the ground shake. Dust fell from the ceiling. "Stay together," Dr. Martinez said. "Stay calm. We have good air. We have water. We can survive here." Above them, Commander was fighting a war that should have been impossible to fight. They had 3 massive capital ships and 17 smaller attack craft. The colony had defenses that were meant to protect against small asteroid impacts. They had old weapons that were designed for planetary defense, not for space warfare. But humans are not built to give up. Engineer Cross had done something brilliant. He had connected the colony's power systems to the old laser cannons. The power flow was not stable. It was dangerous. It might not even work, but it was something. "Fire," ordered. The laser cannons shot at the ships. A thin red line of light cut across the black sky. The first ship adjusted its course to avoid the beam, but the second ship was hit. Not a direct hit, but a hit. Fire exploded on the side of the vessel. For the first time, they realized something. The humans could fight back. They changed their strategy. Instead of attacks from far away, they sent in the smaller attack craft. They wanted to destroy the colony up close. They wanted to kill the humans before they could do more damage. The colony's fighters responded. There were only 8 human pilots. Lieutenant Aaron Brooks was the best of them. He had trained on fighter sims his whole life. He had never shot at a real enemy. Now he was doing it. His fingers moved on the controls. His fighter twisted through the sky. A attack craft exploded behind him. 1 kill, it meant nothing in the big picture, but it meant something to the pilots. It meant they were not helpless. Cross worked in the power center. The laser cannons needed more energy, but the colony also needed power for the shelters, for the medical systems, for everything else. He had to balance it. Give too much power to the weapons and people in the shelters would die from life support failure. Give too little power and the ships would win. Made a decision. He stopped the main power to the botanical domes. All of Dr. Hayes' plants would die without light. It was a sacrifice, but it was necessary. The energy that fed the plants now fed the weapons. Above, in the light of the distant sun, the battle raged. A ship descended toward the center of the colony. It was going to land and send ground troops. Commander understood. They were going to try to capture the colony intact. This was worse than bombardment. Soldiers would be able to hunt humans through the corridors. Made a hard choice. He ordered the pilots to attack the landing ship. One of the pilots had to fly directly at the vessel. It was a suicide mission. Lieutenant Aaron Brooks understood. He did not hesitate. He programmed his fighter to attack course and push the engines to maximum. The G-forces were crushing. His vision started to black out, but he kept the fighter aimed at the ship. The collision happened at the moment before impact. The pilot ejection system fired. Aaron Brooks ejected from his fighter and parachuted down toward the colony. His fighter hit the landing ship. Both exploded in the sky. Aaron lived. He crashed into the red dust outside the colony. The rescue team brought him in through an emergency airlock. He was hurt. He was bleeding, but he was alive, and the landing operation was stopped. In the shelters, Emma heard the explosions. She felt each one. Some were small, some were huge. She held her mother's hand. Her mother was not scared. She was thinking. She was planning. "What will happen?" Emma asked. "I do not know," her mother said. "But humans have always survived. We survive because we do not stop fighting." The battle lasted 4 hours. In that time, humans died. 2 pilots were killed. 3 people in the outer sections of the colony were killed by impacts, but they fought. They fought with everything they had. Then something changed. New ships appeared in the sky, but these ships were not, these ships were. The battle fleet opened fire on the ships which had been dominating the humans suddenly found themselves in a real war. The ships were advanced, they were strong, they were many. The commander made a decision. He pulled back. He took his remaining ships and ran. They were conquerors, but they were not stupid. They did not stay to fight a losing battle. In less than an hour, the fleet was gone. The humans climbed out of their shelters. They looked at the sky. The ships were still there. They had come to help. They had come because it asked them to. They had come because the Chancellor had decided that humans were worth saving. Commander sent a message to the commander. "Thank you, we could not have survived without you." The response came quickly. "You did more than survive, human. You fought, you held. That is something remarkable." Emma climbed the stairs with her mother. They reached the observation deck. The pink sky was filled with smoke and dust. The domes were damaged. The plants were dead, but the colony was still there. The people were still alive. "Look," her mother said. Emma looked at the ships. They were beautiful. They were powerful. They had saved the colony. "Why did they come?" Emma asked. "Because we saved," her mother said. "Because we are human." 3 months after the battle, the High Council met again. But this time, the conversation was different. Chancellor Vex was old, but his mind was sharp. He looked at the data. He looked at the reports. He looked at the images of human fighters defending their colony. "The humans are not what we thought," the Chancellor said. "When Young spoke of them, we did not believe. We thought a child was being foolish. We sent an evaluation team. We expected to find primitives. Instead, we found something else." Was there in the council chamber. He stood with the same 4 arms, the same pale blue skin, but he was different now. He had fought in the battle. He had commanded ships alongside human pilots. He had seen humans do things that other species only thought about doing. "They fought without hope," said. "They had superior numbers, superior technology. Every calculation said that humans would lose, but they fought anyway. They fought to protect their children. They fought to protect a stranger who was not even human. That is not primitive, that is courage." The council listened. Some members still looked doubtful, but the evidence was clear. The data was clear. Without humans, without their unconventional strategies, the colony would have fallen in hours. They would have killed everyone. "What do you propose?" Chancellor Vex asked. "I propose that we accept humanity as equals," said. "I propose that we make them members of the Confederacy. I propose that we learn from them. Humans have something that we have forgotten. They have the ability to inspire others. They have the ability to create unity in times of crisis." The debate went on for 2 days, but in the end, a vote was taken. 32 species in the Confederacy voted to accept humanity as a full member. Only 8 voted against. The vote passed. Humanity was now part of the galactic community. Commander received the message from the council. He was shocked. He had not expected this. He had expected caution. He had expected suspicion. Instead, he received welcome. He called a colony-wide meeting. He told everyone what had happened. Humans were no longer alone. Humans were no longer a lost colony on a distant world. Humans were now citizens of the Confederacy. Emma heard this news with her mother. Her mother cried. But they were not tears of fear. They were tears of relief. They were tears of hope. The changes began immediately. Ships brought supplies to rebuild the colony. They brought medical equipment. They brought food and water and energy. They brought everything that humans needed to repair the damage from the battle. But they also brought something else. They brought knowledge. Scientists worked with Dr. Hayes to develop new agricultural techniques. The plants could grow faster now. They could be stronger. Engineer Cross worked with engineers. He learned about advanced propulsion systems. He learned about energy systems that were far beyond human technology. Dr. Martinez worked with medical experts. She learned about medicines that could cure diseases that humans had thought were permanent. She learned about technology that could extend human life far beyond what Earth biology allowed. But the most important change was military. Lieutenant Aaron Brooks was promoted to commander. He was put in charge of a new human naval force. Young pilots from Earth were sent to 442B. Humans came from Earth to join the Confederacy. They brought their courage. They brought their determination. They brought something that even advanced aliens did not always have. They brought hope. Visited the colony again, he came to meet Emma. The 10-year-old human girl and the young alien stood in the observation deck together. The view was different now. Where there had been red dust and destruction, there was now construction. New buildings were being built. New research facilities were being built. The colony was becoming a real city. "I owed you a visit," said. "I came to tell you that you saved more than just my life." "I just helped you," Emma said. "I did not know what would happen." "No one knew," said. "But your kindness changed everything. If we had not saved you, they would have attacked anyway, but the colony would have fallen. Other species would have been convinced that humans were weak. Now they know the truth. You showed them the truth." Emma did not fully understand. She was still just a child. But she understood that something important had happened, something that would change the future. In the space around 442b, the human naval force was growing. New ships were being built. New weapons were being designed. Human engineers were creating defenses that combined human creativity with technology. The result was something unique, something powerful. Intelligence reports came in. The Dominion was regrouping. They were angry. They had been stopped. They had been humiliated. They were building a much larger fleet. The commander had reported to his superiors that the Confederacy was now protected by a new military force. A force that was creative. A force that was brave. A force that was led by young humans who seemed willing to die for their cause. They did not understand humans. That was their weakness. Chancellor Vex called for another council meeting. This time the tone was urgent. They were preparing for a major assault. The assault would not be just against 442b. The assault would be against multiple worlds in territory. They wanted to test the entire Confederacy. "We need to prepare," the Chancellor said. "We need to strengthen our defenses. We need to build more ships. We need more soldiers." "We need humans," another council member said. "We need their creativity. We need their courage." Commander was invited to speak to the council through a communication link. He was still on 442b. He was still rebuilding the colony, but he understood the situation. "We are ready," said. "Humans are ready. Send us more training, send us more weapons, send us more technology. We will learn, we will adapt, we will fight." The Chancellor looked at, the young nodded. "The humans are ready," said. "I have fought with them. I have seen what they can do. I have seen what they will do for those they care about." The council voted. Humanity would be given a full role in the Confederacy's military. Humans would command forces. Humans would make decisions that affected the entire galaxy. Emma sat in school on 442b. She was learning mathematics now, advanced mathematics. She was learning about space and navigation and physics. She was learning because she wanted to be a pilot. She wanted to follow in the footsteps of Aaron Brooks. She wanted to protect people the way her mother protected plants. In the power center, Cross was designing new weapons. They were weapons that used human ingenuity combined with technology. They were weapons that they had never seen before. In the medical center, Dr. Martinez was training new human doctors. They were learning medical techniques. They were learning how to keep humans alive in space battles. They were learning how to save lives when everything was falling apart. And in the command center, Commander was preparing. He was preparing for the storm that was coming. He was preparing for the assault. He was preparing because he knew the truth. He knew that they were going to try again, but he also knew something else. He knew that the fleet was enormous. It consisted of 470 ships. The fleet spread across space like a cloud of darkness. At the center was the flagship. It was called the Destroyer. It was the largest warship in the known galaxy. It had weapons that could crack planets. They were not coming to test the Confederacy. They were coming to destroy it. The Confederacy had prepared. The fleets of the allied species were ready. But they knew the truth. Without a miracle, they would lose. Commander stood on the command deck of the Human Star. This was humanity's first real battleship. It was not as advanced as the flagships, but it was fast. It was clever. And it was led by a human who understood how to win against impossible odds. "All ships report ready status," said. The voices came back. Human ships, ships from the and 12 other species. Everyone had come. Everyone was ready. Everyone knew what was at stake. "They are entering the outer defense zone," one of the tactical officers said. Nodded, he had been waiting for this. He had a plan. It was a crazy plan, but humans were good at crazy plans. "All units execute Maneuver Alpha," commanded. The Confederacy fleet did something unexpected. Instead of charging it, though, they moved to the sides. They created a corridor. They left the center open. "What are they doing?" the commander asked. that did not understand strategy like this. The strategy was simple. You attacked, you crushed, you won. "It is a trap," one of the officers said. "There is no trap," the commander said. "There is no force that can trap us. Attack, attack everything." The fleet charged through the corridor. The Confederacy fleets on both sides opened fire. Ships exploded. But they were so numerous that the loss of ships barely mattered. They had too many. But the trap was not what the officer thought. The trap was something else. The trap was that they had entered a region of space that humans had prepared. Cross was on a command ship. He had calculated everything. The ships were not expecting what was about to happen. The humans had taken data from the attacks. They had found patterns. They had found weaknesses. Now said, "Activate the pulse." The pulse was an electromagnetic wave that the humans had designed. It did not destroy the ships, but it disrupted their communications. It disrupted their weapons targeting systems. It disrupted their shields. For the first time, the ships were vulnerable. The Confederacy fleets attacked. The battle was fierce. Massive warships exploded. Smaller fighters twisted through space, firing at each other. Thousands of soldiers from a dozen different species fought to survive. But the humans made the difference. Human pilots flew with a courage that was astounding. They flew into impossible situations. They flew through fire and debris. They flew because they understood something that other species sometimes forgot. They flew because they were fighting for more than just victory. They were fighting for their families. They were fighting for Emma and the children and the future. Lieutenant Aaron Brooks led a human fighter squadron. He had been in 5 battles since the first attack. He had learned. He had grown. He was no longer just a pilot. He was a warrior. "All human units follow me," Aaron said. "We are going for the flagship." The human fighters accelerated. They flew directly at the massive destroyer. The other Confederacy forces provided cover fire. Interceptor ships moved to stop the humans, but the humans were faster. They were more clever. They moved in patterns that they had not anticipated. Aaron Brooks came in low. His fighter fired. The blast hit the destroyer's shield generator. The shields flickered. Another human fighter followed. Then another. Then another. Each one flew in a different pattern. Each one attacked from a different angle. They tried to predict the attacks, but they could not. Human unpredictability, human creativity, human refusal to follow logical patterns was a weapon that they could not defend against. The destroyer's shields collapsed. Now the heavier fire from the Confederacy fleet could reach the flagship. The destroyer was hit, then hit again. Fire erupted across the massive ship. The commander knew what this meant. The destroyer was dying. "Retreat," the commander ordered. "Retreat to the outer colonies." The fleet turned. They ran. The battle was not won, but they were broken. Their momentum was gone. Their confidence was shattered. The chase lasted for 3 days. The Confederacy fleet pursued the across space. They tried to make a stand near but they failed. The combination of strength and human innovation was too much. They were scattered, broken into small fleets that fled in different directions. They were no longer a unified threat. They were a memory of what had once been terrifying. They were a memory of something that had been defeated. The final victory came when the human pilots, led by Aaron Brooks, disabled the last capital ship. It was a maneuver that should have been impossible. But Aaron had learned from Emma's mother. He had learned from all the humans who had fought and survived. He had learned that humans could do impossible things. They erupted in celebration. The humans had helped save the entire galaxy. Young species like humans, species that the Confederacy had doubted, species that they had thought were primitive, had saved everyone. On 442B, Emma watched the victory broadcasts. She was 12 years old now. She had seen so much. She had seen her colony almost destroyed. She had seen humans rise up and become warriors. She had seen the galaxy change. Her mother put her arm around Emma. "Your compassion started this," her mother said. "You helped, and that one act of kindness changed everything." "I just helped," Emma said. "I did not know what would happen." "That is what kindness is," her mother said. "You do not know what will happen, you just do it." A message came through the communication network. It was he was coming to 442B. He was coming to see Emma again. When arrived, he and Emma stood on the observation deck. The pink sky of 442B was beautiful. The colony was rebuilt. The plants were growing again. The solar panels were working. Everything was alive again. "I wanted to thank you," said, "again." "You are welcome," Emma said. "Again." They both laughed. It was a strange sound, a human and an alien laughing together, but it was not strange anymore. The galaxy had changed. Species that had been enemies were now allies. Species that had doubted each other were now friends. In the Chancellor's palace Chancellor Vex made an announcement to the entire Confederacy. "We have called a great gathering. We want to honor those who saved us. We want to honor the species of humanity. We want to recognize that the greatest strength in the galaxy is not military power. The greatest strength is the capacity to care for others. The greatest strength is the willingness to sacrifice for someone different. Humanity has taught us this. Humanity will always be remembered. Humanity will always be valued. Humanity will always be a beacon of hope in the darkness of space." The Confederacy broadcast the message across all known space. Every species heard it. Every civilization heard it. The message was clear. A young species from a single world had saved the entire galaxy, not with superior weapons, not with superior technology, but with courage, creativity, compassion, and the simple human belief that one life, any life, was worth saving. Cross continued designing new technologies. He combined human ideas with knowledge. The result was weapons and defenses that changed warfare forever. Dr. Hayes expanded her botanical work. She grew plants that could feed the entire Confederacy. She showed that humans could create as well as fight. Dr. Susan Martinez trained new doctors, human and alien doctors working side by side. They saved lives together. They learned from each other. Commander became the leader of all human military forces in the Confederacy. He was honored and respected by species that had never heard of humans before the war. He had shown wisdom. He had shown courage. He had shown that humans were worth believing in. And in space, human ships flew alongside ships. They flew alongside ships from 20 other species. They flew together to protect the peace. They flew together to build a future where no species would be abandoned, where no child would be left alone. Emma grew up to be a pilot like Aaron Brooks. She flew the stars. She saw worlds she had never dreamed of. But she never forgot 442B. She never forgot where she came from. Years later, when Emma was old and gray, she would tell the story to young students. The story of how one act of kindness had changed the galaxy. The story of how a 10-year-old girl had sat with a wounded alien child. The story of how compassion had become the greatest weapon in space. "That is what humans are," Emma would say. "We save the lost, we help the hurt, we do not give up. And sometimes when we do these things, we change everything. Sometimes one act of kindness changes the entire galaxy." The students would listen, and they would understand. They would understand that strength is not just about power. Strength is about having the courage to care. Strength is about having the determination to fight for what is right. Strength is about being human. The story would be told and retold. It would be taught in schools across the Confederacy. It would be remembered as the moment when the galaxy learned that humans were not primitive. Humans were essential. Humans were the species that reminded everyone why peace was worth fighting for. And it all started because one child helped another child. Because Emma helped. Because one act of kindness rippled across the stars and changed everything. The galaxy would fight back. The message came through the communication network. A message from the Dominion. A message to all civilizations in space. We are coming for all of you. We are coming to bring order. We are coming to bring strength. We are coming to destroy the weak. The council members heard this message. The species of the Confederacy heard this message. And they all looked toward 442B. They looked toward humanity. They looked toward the young species that had already shown that they would not give up. They looked toward the species that had saved an alien child and started a chain of events that would change the galaxy forever. The galaxy was about to witness what humans could really do. Dr. Martinez was in the medical center. She was treating the injured. Aaron Brooks was on a medical table. He would heal. His courage had saved the colony. Cross walked through the power center. He saw the damage. He thought about the plants that had died. It was a sacrifice, but sometimes sacrifice was necessary. Commander stood in the command center and looked at the reports. The colony had survived, the had been stopped, and the had helped. Everything had changed. The galaxy now knew that humans would fight. The galaxy now knew that humans would sacrifice. The galaxy now knew that humanity was worth something. But the war was not over. They would come again, and next time they would bring more ships. Next time they would bring more force. But this time, humanity would not be alone. Something had changed. Something was wrong. He contacted the council. "I must speak with Chancellor Vex," said. "It is urgent." "The Chancellor is busy," the council aide said. The humans said, "Something has happened to the humans. I can feel it. They are moving, I am certain." The aide made contact with the Chancellor. What said made sense. They had been quiet lately, too quiet. It was possible. It was possible that they had learned about humanity and decided to act. Made his plea, "Send help, send ships, send anything. They saved my life. Now their lives are in danger." Chancellor Vex looked at the reports. He looked at the data. He made a decision. It was a risky decision. It could start a war. But the Chancellor remembered what it said about humans. The Chancellor remembered the act of kindness that had occurred on a distant world. "Prepare the battle fleet," Chancellor Vex said. "We are going to 442B. We will see if humans are worth saving." Back on the dying colony, Commander did not know help was coming. He only knew that his people would fight. They would fight for survival. They would fight for Emma and the other children. They would fight because that was what humans did. The second wave of attacks was beginning. The colony's shields were failing, but the humans were not giving up, not yet. Complete, but it was enough, was healing, he would live. A message came from space. A recovery ship was being sent. They were grateful. But their message carried a warning. Humans were not ready for the galaxy. The galaxy was dangerous. Humans should stay alone, stay hidden, stay safe. On the day that left, Emma cried, touched the top of her head with one of his 4 arms. He said nothing, but Emma knew that he understood. Commander watched the ship rise into the pink sky. Dr. Martinez stood next to him. She was thinking about the future. She was thinking about what it meant that humans had saved an alien child. She was thinking about what they would tell the rest of the galaxy. She did not know that she was watching the moment when everything changed. One act of kindness had been seen across the stars, and the galaxy would never forget what humans had done.